I'm going to start with the part that still makes my hands go cold when I replay it. Because it didn't feel heroic in the moment. It felt stupid and fast and loud. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late fall, the kind of day where the sky sits low like a lid and everything smells like wet asphalt. I was late picking up my son again, because of course I was. When you're a single dad working overtime at a shop that acts like time off is a personality flaw, you learn to apologize before anyone even says a word. My kid, Nolan, was waiting under the school awning with his backpack swallowed up on his shoulders, clutching his little nebulizer case like it was a lunchbox. He didn't complain. That's the part that eats me. 8 years old, and already practiced at pretending he's fine, so I don't feel worse. I'm driving this beat-up 2008 sedan with the check engine light basically living on the dashboard, telling him I'll make it up to him. We'll do something fun this weekend, and he just goes, "It's okay, Dad." Coach said I can stay after and help stack cones. Like he's 40. Like he's the parent. Then we hit the next intersection, and everything in front of us turns into chaos. Cars stopped at a green light. People standing on the sidewalk in that weird half-circle you only see when something's wrong, but nobody wants to be the first one to get close. And in the middle of it, right outside the middle school 2 blocks away, there's this guy in a dark hoodie, pacing like a trapped animal, holding a kitchen knife. Not a little pocket knife. A full-on, shiny, stupid kitchen blade. And right in front of him is this girl, maybe 11, wearing a school uniform sweater, rain slicking her hair to her face, frozen like her body forgot it had legs. My son says, "Dad." And I can hear the fear in that one syllable, the way his voice shrinks. I'm watching the nearest officer still getting out of his car, radio up, yelling for backup, but the distance feels like a mile. The guy's backing toward the curb, and a bus is rolling down the lane like it doesn't know it's about to drive into a nightmare. I should have stayed in the car. I know that now. I should have locked the doors and waited. That's what normal people do. That's what the responsible dad does, right? But something about seeing that girl's eyes, wide and bright and begging without words, flipped a switch in me. Because I've been underestimated my whole life. I'm the quiet guy. The just keep your head down guy. The guy who gets talked over, pushed aside, told to stop making things complicated. And I've swallowed that so long I barely taste it anymore. But in that second, I couldn't swallow one more thing. I told Nolan, "Lock the doors. Don't open for anyone. Not even if they knock." You hear me. He's already shaking his head. "Dad, don't." And I'm already out in the rain. My boots hit the street and water splashes up my jeans, and I'm jogging toward them with my hands up like I'm trying to calm a dog that bites. The guy snaps the knife up and screams, "Back up," like I'm the threat. The girl makes this small sound, not even a scream, more like a breath getting stolen, and it breaks my heart right in half. I keep my voice low, because I've learned something fixing engines for a living. People respond to calm, even when they don't deserve it. "Hey," I say. "Hey man, look at me. What's your name?" He's shaking, eyes darting, rain dripping off his chin. Doesn't matter. His voice cracks on the last syllable. Nothing matters. They don't care. Nobody cares. And he jerks the knife toward the girl's neck, not cutting, just close enough to make everyone flinch. I'm close enough now to see his hands trembling, and weirdly, that's what hits me. Not the knife. The shaking. Because I know that shaking. I've had it in my own hands at 3 a.m. staring at bills, trying to decide whether to buy medication or keep the heat on. I say I get it. And he looks at me like he can't believe anybody would say that out loud. My kid's sick. I tell him, because honesty is the only tool I've got. I work doubles. I'm behind. I'm tired too. But that little girl didn't do any of that to you. For a split second, it works. His shoulders drop a hair. The knife lowers a hair. The girl shifts like she might run. And then another siren wails. And it's like the sound yanks him back into panic. He backs toward the street, pulling her with him like she's a shield. The bus gets closer. The crowd starts shouting. The officer yells, "Drop it!" And nobody hears anybody. And then the moment happens, the one that doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like gravity. I lunge. I wrap one arm around the girl and yank her behind me, and the blade hits my side like a hot punch. I don't even realize it's blood at first, just pressure and heat, and this shock that knocks air out of my lungs. I manage to shove her toward the sidewalk, toward the officer's outstretched arm, and then the knife catches my shoulder, a second sting that makes my arm go weak. I hear Nolan screaming my name from the car. I hear somebody sobbing. I hear the knife clatter because the cops finally get hands on the guy. And I'm on the wet pavement thinking, okay, I might have just ruined my son's life. I try to tell Nolan I'm fine, because dads lie. That's what we do. But the sky tilts and the rain turns into a blur, and the last thing I see before everything goes dark is that girl staring at me like I'm something she never expected to exist. When I wake up, I'm in a hospital room that smells like disinfectant and old coffee, and my first thought isn't pain. It's Nolan. Because when you're the only parent, fear isn't about dying. It's about leaving a kid behind with nobody to catch him. Nolan is curled in a chair beside my bed in the same hoodie he wore yesterday, chin on his chest, eyes swollen from crying. My throat is dry. My ribs feel like somebody replaced them with broken glass. I whisper his name, and his head pops up like he's been holding his breath all night. "Dad," he says, and his voice cracks, and I hate myself again. His teacher is there too, Ms. Renner, looking like she hasn't slept either. She tells me I lost a lot of blood, but I'm stable. Stable is a funny word. Stable means you're not actively dying. That's all. Then there's a soft knock, and the room changes temperature. A woman walks in like she owns the air. Tall, sharp suit, hair perfect even in the morning, eyes bright in that way that says she's cried already, but she's not letting anyone see it. And behind her is the girl. Same blue eyes, same sweater, but now she's smaller without the crowd around her, just a kid with wet lashes and a backpack hugged to her chest. The woman introduces herself as Maren Caldwell, city council, the kind whose face is on billboards and whose voice shows up on my radio during traffic updates. Except in person, she doesn't sound like a politician. She sounds like a mom who almost lost her child. "Mr. Hale," she says, and that's my name in this new version of my life, apparently, because suddenly strangers know it. I'm Maren. This is my daughter, Lila. Lila steps forward and whispers, "Thank you." Just 2 words, but they land heavy. I try to wave it off, because that's my reflex. Anybody would have done it. Maren shakes her head once, quick. No, they wouldn't. She says it like she's seen enough to know. She looks at Nolan, then back to me. "You had a reason to stay in your car," she says. "You had a child. You still went." And for a second, I feel this weird shame, like I got caught doing something I wasn't supposed to do. Because where I come from, people don't do big, brave things. People survive. People keep their heads down. People don't become stories. Then Maren's aide, this guy with a tablet and a smile that never reaches his eyes, steps in behind her like a shadow. He's polite, but he's already managing the scene, already thinking about optics. "Councilwoman, we should let Mr. Hale rest. Press is asking if you'll make a statement." That's when the anger creeps in, quiet at first. Because I know that tone. I know people who see a human moment and immediately try to turn it into a tool. Maren hears it too. Her jaw tightens. "Not now," she says. And her aide hesitates like he's not used to hearing no. Later, after Nolan goes with Ms. Renner to grab breakfast, Maren stays. Lila stays too, sitting with her hands folded like she's trying to be brave in the aftermath. Maren tells me what happened from her side. The call, the panic, the feeling that all her influence couldn't stop a knife. She looks at my bandages and her voice drops. "I owe you," she says, simple. I start to say I don't want anything. I start to do the pride thing. The stubborn, American, broke man pride where you'd rather drown than accept a hand. And then she says something that cracks right through me. "The nurse told me about your son," she says. "His breathing treatments. The cost." I stiffen. Because that's private. That's the part of my life I hide. I'm not ashamed of my kid. I'm ashamed of not being able to give him everything. She slides a folder onto the bedside table. "I'm not offering charity," she says, and her voice turns firm, the way it probably does in meetings when people try to steamroll her. "I'm offering gratitude. Your job is protected. Your pay continues while you heal. And Nolan's medical costs, the inhalers, the specialist visits, all of it, are covered through a foundation that doesn't ask questions." My mouth opens, and nothing comes out. Because in my head, the numbers start running automatically. Rent, medication, missed shifts, late fees, the spiral that eats you alive one bill at a time. And suddenly someone just blocked the spiral with their hands. I should be relieved, right? I am. Relief hits so hard it almost makes me cry. But then the pride comes roaring back like, don't accept it. Don't be a charity case. Don't let a politician buy your pain and call it kindness. I say, I don't want to owe anyone. Maren doesn't flinch. Then don't owe me, she says. Oh, your kid. Let him breathe. And Lila looks up and says, please, like she's carrying guilt that doesn't belong to her. That's when I realize the enemy here isn't Marin. It isn't even the guy with the knife. It's the system that teaches people like me we're supposed to handle everything alone, then punishes us when we can't. The aide knocks again, pokes his head in. Councilwoman, the cameras are outside. And this time I see it clearly, the tug of war. The mom wants to thank me. The machine wants to use me. Marin turns, and her voice goes cold. If a camera comes in here, you're fired. He blinks like he can't process that kind of boundary, then disappears. Marin exhales and looks back at me. I'm sorry, she says. This is what my world does. It turns everything into messaging. I stare at her and say the truth I've never said to anybody powerful. Then prove it's not a message. Prove you see us when the cameras aren't around. She nods once, slow. Okay, she says. Tell me what you need. And for the first time in years, I don't make a joke. I don't minimize. I don't pretend. I tell her about the inhalers that run out early, the copays, the boss who threatens hours when I can't stay late, the fear of one bad month. I tell her about Nolan growing up too fast. I tell her about being invisible. And Marin listens like a person, not a podium. Here's the part nobody tells you about becoming that guy on the news. It doesn't feel like a victory at first. It feels like your life gets yanked into daylight, and you don't get to blink. By the time I'm home, walking stiff and slow with stitches and a sling, the neighborhood knows. The shop knows. People I haven't spoken to in years text me like we're best friends. Some call me a hero. Some call me an idiot. A couple guys online say I was asking for it because you don't get involved these days. That one made my stomach twist, because I get it. Fear has trained people. Fear and exhaustion. Meanwhile, Nolan is clingy in this way that looks like love, but feels like trauma. He checks on me every 10 minutes. Like if he looks away, I'll disappear. That's my punishment. That's the real cost. Then Marin's office calls. Not her aide, a different voice, quieter. They ask if I'll meet her at a community forum about safety near schools. No cameras, they swear. I laugh at that, because come on. But I go anyway, because I said what I said in that hospital room. Prove you see us. The room is packed. Parents, teachers, a couple cops. A lot of people who are tired of pretending this kind of thing doesn't happen here. Marin gets up and talks about policies, lighting, patrol routes, mental health response. The usual words. And then she does something I didn't expect. She points at me in the second row and says, "This man shouldn't have had to bleed to keep a child safe." The room goes quiet. We clap for courage, she says. But we ignore the conditions that force ordinary people into impossible choices. I feel my throat tighten. Because that's it. That's the thing. She invites me up. My knees feel weak. I'm not a speaker. I'm not smooth. I fix engines and pay bills late. But I stand at that microphone and I tell them the truth. I was scared. I was terrified. Not of the knife, not really. Of leaving my son behind. And I say, I didn't jump in because I'm brave. I jumped because I couldn't live with the version of me that stayed in the car. That's when the room claps. Not the polite clap. The kind that sounds like people recognizing themselves. Afterward, Marin pulls me aside and says, I drafted something. It's a program proposal, emergency support for Good Samaritans who get hurt helping others, plus a fund for families like mine who are one missed paycheck away from collapse. She asks me to review it, to tell her what's real and what's just nice words. I stare at her and think about the line between gratitude and power, between help and control. Because here's the messy truth. Marin is still a politician. Her world still runs on perception. And my world still runs on survival. If I say yes, do I become a prop? If I say no, do I let pride steal my kid's oxygen? In the end, I do the hardest thing I've ever done. I accept the help. And I set a boundary. I tell her, no photo ops with my son. No campaign ads. You don't get to use his face. Marin doesn't argue. She nods. Done, she says. The aide isn't happy about it. I see it in his tight smile. But for once, I don't care. Nolan's meds get covered. My job stops threatening me. The bill stops screaming quite as loud. And slowly, Nolan starts breathing like a kid again instead of a tiny adult. Months later, I run into Lila at a school event. She's with friends, laughing. She sees me and gives me a small wave, like we share a secret. Marin walks up too, and for a second, we just stand there in the gym noise. both knowing our lives got stitched together by a terrible afternoon. You doing okay? She asks. I shrug. Depends on the day, I say. But my kid's breathing. She smiles, then she looks serious. People are angry, she says quietly. Some say I shouldn't have helped privately. Some say you shouldn't have accepted. Some say you should have stayed in your car. I laugh once, bitter. Everyone's got an opinion when they weren't the one standing there. She nods. Exactly. And that's where I'm leaving you with it, because I still don't have a clean answer. If you were me, would you have stepped out of the car, knowing your kid was watching? If you were Marin, would you have offered help directly? Or is that unfair power, even when it's gratitude? And if a system is broken enough that one act of violence can ruin a working family overnight, is the real hero the guy who jumped in, or the society that should have made sure he didn't have to? Drop your take in the comments. Right or wrong, brave or reckless, gratitude or political leverage. I want to hear it. And if you've ever seen someone get underestimated until the moment they finally snapped and did the right thing anyway, tell that story too. Because those are the ones that actually matter.